So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This subject is a subject we haven't covered before and one that is so important. It's caring for your line and living life to the full and living life that it doesn't hold you back because you've got a line, and you'll find out more about this a little bit later on. So we have two presenters tonight, Josie Carter. She's a Renal Home Therapies Manager at Basildon University Hospital. And we've got a kidney patient, Joe Baker. And if you want to ask any questions throughout the session, just pop them in the chat, and I'll read them out later to our presenters. This webinar, as you've heard, is going to be recorded and it will be able to watch again through our YouTube channel. And you'll get an email tomorrow, and that should be available round about 10 o'clock tomorrow. So let me hand over to Josie, who will be your presenter for this evening.
Hello everyone, my name's Josie. Thank you again for joining this webinar tonight. I've been a renal nurse for around 16 years and I've worked in inpatients renal, outpatients renal, dialysis centres and now home dialysis centres. And we're lucky enough to have on the call with us tonight one of my patients, Jo. She's a dialysis patient and there will be time later for a question and answer session. So between us, hopefully we answer your questions today. So as Pete mentioned, today's webinar is about caring for your access dialysis line and how to live every day with that line. So as I've introduced ourselves, the information that we share today is based on my clinical experience and guidance, but any questions that you may have later, we can go through them and see if we can help you at all. So the aims of today's session, we will understand your dialysis line, go through the risks of infection and what infection can look like, key rules to look after your dialysis line, what to do every day, how to safely wash and shower and keep your dressing clean, what specific clothes you could wear or items that can make the line more comfortable, line care during your daily activities, and that includes physical activity. So we've got a section on exercise as well. Then we've got travel and where to get help. And then we will talk with Jo, our expert patient, and then afterwards open it up to all of you listening, wherever you have any questions for us to answer afterwards. Okay. So there's a couple of types of dialysis line that you may have yourself, or you may have seen them. So the first picture is a hemodialysis line. So this goes into a vein to access the blood so that we can connect you to a dialysis machine. These can be temporary or they can be permanent. Often if you have a temporary one, that means you have to be in hospital. So we like the permanent ones because they're much safer and easier to use. And then the other type of dialysis line is a peritoneal dialysis tube. So that goes into your tummy and that stays there for as long as it's needed as well. And fluid goes in and out of the tummy rather than blood. And you can still connect to a machine, but that type of dialysis is a home-based dialysis. Moving on. So what worries do you have about your line we'd like to talk about tonight? So how long would it last, for example? So unfortunately, our bodies don't like lines. Our bodies see them as a foreign object. So they do sometimes try and get rid of it. But eventually, hopefully, your body gets used to it. They are either stitched in or there's like a cuff that your skin grows over to keep the line in place. So it should last, hopefully, for a very long time. The only reason why it wouldn't is if you get an infection, they tend to need to come out immediately. So what may you be worried about? Are you able to shower, for example? Will you pull it out? What could I wear? Are people able to see it? These may be things you worry about, so we'd like to talk about them now. So with any line, you can always shower. Going back a slide, sorry. You can always shower, but we will go through how to do that safely today. You won't be able to pull it out unless you physically yank it quite hard. So it's put in so that your body accepts it and your skin grows over it to keep it nice and safe. These lines are designed so that over a normal kind of t-shirt, you shouldn't be able to see it. If you're wearing something in the summer, maybe there is some visible, but normal jumpers, t-shirts, they're quite discreet. They're not very big. And if it does block or anything whenever you need it, there's often things that can be done. So it's not the end of the world. If it stops working, you just let your nurses and doctors know, and there's normally something that can be done about it. But the doctors and nurses will always tell you each step as you go along if there's any problems. So hopefully after today, you have a little bit more understanding and confidence on how to safely look after your line and to live your life well. Moving on. So the biggest risk with any line or any catheter in our body is infection. So the biggest way to reduce an infection risk is a hand hygiene. So washing your hands really, really well. You'll probably see all around the hospitals lots of steps to washing your hand effectively. And it should be done with hot water and soap for a minimum of 30 seconds. So a bit like when we were in the COVID times and we had to sing happy birthday a couple of times around before we finished washing our hands. That is the best thing you can do to keep everything nice and clean, so that if you do accidentally touch a line, your hands are nice and clean. There will be a dressing on the line. Whatever line you choose, have, or end up with, there'll always be a dressing on it. And the key is to keep that dressing on and clean and intact. And if you ever notice it dirty or falling off, then you must get in touch with the hospital team to get that changed if you don't know how to do that yourself. Because if you have the dressing off and your clothes touch it or your hands touch it, then that could risk increase your chances of developing an infection. So if you do ever have a dressing off, absolutely never touch the area where it comes out of your skin. We always want it covered up and always want it free from infection. So signs of infection do tend to be redness, quite angry looking red. It could be swollen. It might be sore even without touching it. Or sometimes you might feel like you just feel genuinely unwell and bit of a hot temperature or a shivering temperature. So if you have any of them signs, it's never advisable just to watch and wait. It's always best to speak to somebody as soon as possible. Never feel like you're getting in the doctors and nurses' way. That it's much easier and better for you if you contact somebody immediately, because often there's things that can be done to make it better. But if you were to wait and see what happened the next day, it could be that the infection's got too bad and that the line would need to come out. So handy tips: never ever have a bath if you're on dialysis with a line. There is a lot of our hoses, so stagnant water is not good for dialysis lines. So we don't like it to be soaked. It's fine to shower. We will discuss that in the future slides, but it's not good to bathe in a big tub of water. Avoid pulling the line, but if you accidentally knock it, normally it's embedded enough into your skin and the dressing keeps it nice and safe. So that shouldn't be anything to worry about. A couple of handy tips when you are showering is about once a month, just give your shower head a good scrub with like a toothbrush and just a little bit of bleach and water, and then that will help prevent any bacteria build up in your shower hose. And some people like to wear a face mask so that when they're looking down at their line, they're not breathing any germs over them. That's personal preference, whether you feel comfortable in a face mask, but some units advise it, other units use it as up to you, but some people find that quite helpful. So this is what an infection could look like. So the first picture where it says score 0, that is a nice healthy skin with no redness, no marks around where it enters the body. A slight infection, which you may think, oh, I'll just see what that looks like tomorrow, I'm not going to bother anybody, could soon get worse. So if you do see it even slightly red, less than a centimetre in distance from the tube itself, I'd recommend you still contact your caregiver and say to them, it doesn't look as normal as it normally does, and I'd like it to be looked at. If you don't look after your dressing yourself, and the nurses do this in the hospital, then it's their responsibility to assess this. And we always look at it a minimum of once a week. Depends what dressing you have. Some people do it every dialysis session, some people do it every shower, and some people do it a minimum of weekly. The infection can get quite bad quite quickly. By the time you get to number 2, it's spread quite bad. And then number 3, that's now going quite deep into your tissue layers in your skin. So that when it gets to that stage, it might not take very long to get to that stage. And the line would definitely need to be removed, because even with antibiotics, your skin wouldn't heal. The plastic needs to come out of your body for your skin to heal. So that's why it's always best, if you notice any problems, always contact your nurse and doctors just to say, I'm not sure, I'd rather it be looked at, please. Okay, moving on. So some things that may help you with your dialysis line. The website, the NKF website, have a couple of really good leaflets, they also come in easy read. So there's one for people on hemodialysis, and that one is called the Tunneled Hemodialysis Line. And there is also one for patients that are on peritoneal dialysis, which is the tummy dialysis, and that one's called an Introduction to PD. But if you just type in HD or PD, if you're not sure on the names, into the search bar, it will come up with the different leaflets available on the website. Daily checks for your line. So your lines, no matter what dialysis you're on, have a clamp, and they should always be closed when you're not using them. The reason why we close the clamps is so that blood and fluid can't come out of them, and so that germs can't go into your body. We always want the dressing on. We always want that dressing nice and clean, and we always want it stuck down as much as possible. So if you notice the edges start peeling off and you're not due in that day, just use a piece of tape, keep it down. If you notice this completely come off and you've got another dressing, put a new one on as cleanly as you can. And if you haven't got any of them things, then speak to your hospital and say, my dressing's looking dirty and I'm worried about infection. Absolutely never use scissors or sharp objects, pins or anything, to try and get any dressings off or gauze off or tape off. If you accidentally snip the line, there's nothing we can do to save it. And unfortunately, that would mean having to go to surgery to have that one out and then having to have a new one in. So even if you see a nurse or anybody with scissors, just say to them, oi, this is my line, and I don't want you using scissors because I want to keep it. So that's a really, really important rule. Always wash your hands before you touch the line. And that's the same if you go to a hospital and a nurse is going to put you on dialysis. If you don't see them washing their hands for at least 30 seconds, then you have every right to say, I'd like you to wash your hands again because I don't want to get an infection. And no one will ever mind if you challenge us, because that shows that you're really invested in your health and you understand how important that line is. Some people prefer to wear sterile gloves. They're really difficult to put on, so a lot of patients don't choose to use them because they're not easy. But if you go to a hospital and a nurse puts you onto a dialysis machine, with hemodialysis, that's essential that they wear the gloves. With the peritoneal dialysis, not many places use sterile gloves. They just wash their hands really, really well. So hand washing is the key to avoid any infection here. And then the leaflets that I mentioned, always follow the advice that you see, but if you're ever unsure, the health professionals at your hospital are always happy to teach you more. Okay, so next we've got showering and staying clean. So we advise, if you're on hemodialysis, the only way to shower is you absolutely must use a shower pouch. So we're lucky that we also have Independence products with us on the call tonight, and there's going to be a short video in a moment just to show you these pouches. But anybody that is going to choose or is already on hemodialysis, which is the blood dialysis, you must always, always, always shower with the shower pouch. It's not safe to ever shower without a shower pouch. Those that are on peritoneal dialysis or going to choose PD in the future, you are allowed to shower without a shower pouch. It's completely your personal preference. But if you do shower without a pouch, you must change your dressing for straight away after you come out the shower before dressing. So if you know that you're not going to manage that straight away because you've been standing up for too long or it's taken too much of your energy, it's best to wear the shower pouch so that you're not so much in a rush, and then it's much safer to avoid showering. So we're just going to watch the video now so we can all see what I mean by a shower pouch. So that was a guide on what the shower pouches look like, how to apply them and how to remove them. I did see a question pop up just before the video was played about the shower pouches prescriptions. We will go into that a bit later on. There's some contact details for Independence products. There is an email and there's a phone number and I believe a QR code for anybody at the end of the presentation, and we will answer all of the questions then. Thank you. So moving on, going back to how to look after your dialysis lines, there now is such range as adaptive clothing. The only companies that I'm currently aware of that sell these are Primark and Asda. You don't have to buy any specific clothing. This could be more beneficial to those that go to hemodialysis units because people tend to wear the same outfits so that you're not getting anything dirty, and they also like to wear the same outfit for their weight, but it means that it's got like extra zips or buttons or just a bit easier to maneuver around, so that if you've got a line, there's some poppers that you could undo from the neck or a zip or something, so that you don't have to take your jumper right off and have anything showing. You just undo that extra zip or extra buttons, and then the access is really easy to get to. And they do them for fistulas and for catheters that are in the tummy, and there's quite a big range. They range from just about £5 or £6 up to about £20-30, depending on what they are. But like I say, they're not essential, but it's a new clothing range that has only been out fairly recently, just to make things a bit easier when you go to these dialysis sessions. If you don't want to buy anything specific, I'd advise, if you're at hemodialysis, to wear loose clothing, probably darker clothing. I know in the picture there's a white jumper there and she's got blood needles in her arm. So if there was a little bit of a spillage, I wouldn't want you all to worry about getting clothes marked. And with the peritoneal dialysis, there's some betadine, that really dark brown solution that comes out of the line a little. So again, it's not worth having clothes ruined just because of dialysis. So perhaps older clothes, or another thing that some patients do is take an old towel and just put that on their lap or by their line, so that your clothes are protected when you're connecting yourself and disconnecting from the dialysis. To secure the line when you're not on dialysis, some patients do like to wrap their line around with some gauze and some tape, which I understand that's great for comfort, but you just have to be really careful not to do it too tight so that you can get it back off after, because we don't want to be getting them scissors anywhere near these lines. So if you do like to cover it up because you find it uncomfortable, then just loosely put it around your line with a piece of tape so that it's easy to remove. There are fixation devices available, which the hospitals do have, just not many patients choose to use them, so it might not be something you've ever been made aware of. But there is small sticky pieces of plaster that can be put just under your line and then secured with that, if that's something you'd rather use. Okay. So next we have line care and daily activities. So for exercise, it's absolutely okay to do that on dialysis. There is no reason why you couldn't do general fitness with the dialysis lines in situ. The only thing you need to be careful with is swimming. So there is such thing as an activity pouch, but these are only for those that have a peritoneal PD tube in their tummy. And we will show you, we can get some information to you on them after, and on the next slide there is a bit more information on this. There's also a PD belt. So in the picture on the top there, you can insert that around your waist and the tube slides into it. So that's really good for those that perhaps are manual workers or like to go to the gym. I don't think that they're great for everyday use because they don't move with your body. So sometimes the tube can pull. If you were to rotate, the belt doesn't necessarily come with you, and over time it can pull the tube slowly. So they're best really only for activities, or if you've got quite a heavy labour job, manual job where you're lifting, moving around quite a lot. For those, I know this is about line care, but for those patients that may have a fistula in the future, there is also a sleeve you can put over your arm, which is just a piece of material. And they come in lots of different colours and patterns and things. But that's really good if you're into gardening and anything where you're likely to get your arm quite dirty, because we really don't want any infections. So if you know that you're really into gardening or perhaps painting and you get quite messy, cooking and you get quite messy, then there are things like this available. And both of these things you can get from somewhere like Amazon for just like £5 to £10, something like that. They're not overly expensive, but they'll make sure that you'll look after your access really well and keep the line in for much longer. So the key is just to be really careful when you're doing anything. Okay. So things that are available for you to help to stay active and exercise is there is a kidney website specifically for exercise called Kidney Beam. There is a link on the NKF website. These exercises range from anything from sitting exercises all the way to running. They have specific exercise videos which are live, but they also have ones you can watch back. They can just have free text ideas for you to have a look at and to go and practice, and just general tips and advice. So it's really important with kidney failure to keep your muscles strong so that you can stay well for as long as possible, because unfortunately side effect of kidney failure can be muscle wastage. So often you'll see a dietitian when you're in a clinic, and we often mention about exercising. So it's really important. So that's a really, really good website. It does not matter on your ability currently, even if you not walk very far at all. There is also just sitting down exercises, and it might say grab a tin out the cupboard and just lift that up and down for a few minutes, like real simple things that can get you moving. The website, NKF website itself, has got some really good information, really good leaflets. There's one called Let's Get Active, and there's a second called Exercising Indoors. So you don't necessarily need to be going out in these rainy days. Even when it's British summer, you can stay indoors and still get fit and active. Even when you're on dialysis, even if you have a dialysis line, you can still do the exercise. Only exercise to your ability. So just because you may see some advice that says to go and run around the street, if that's not your ability, then don't start there. Start with the indoor exercises and build it up. It's a good idea to avoid heavy lifting unless you're currently a weightlifter. So what we often say is heavy is around 10 kilograms. So most of dialysis supplies boxes come at a maximum of 10 kilograms. So if you ever need to carry any dialysis stuff around, one box at a time is your maximum. Those that are currently going to the gym regularly and weightlifting, then please speak to your doctor in clinic and just say, I'm not too sure about what my ability maximum threshold is now that I'm having to have renal failure. What is your advice? And then with swimming, unfortunately, with hemodialysis, if you have a line, you cannot go swimming. It's too risky with infection. And even with an activity pouch, the risk is quite high. But with peritoneal dialysis, there is swimming pouches available, and they are available through the Independence Products, whose team is on the call with us today, and there'll be more details at the end of the call. And with the hemodialysis, it may be individual rules, so please still ask the questions if that's something that you're interested in, but just be aware that the risk of infection is much higher. Okay. So next, we're going to just discuss a bit about travel. My belief on kidney failure is we really don't want it to get in your way of life. Unfortunately, it's not a great thing to have. I feel sorry for you. It's really not well publicised, and people just don't understand what kidney failure means. But those that work in renal will be able to help you to live your life to the max. So if you love going on holiday, even if that's just in England, or if you like to go to a faraway destination, you absolutely can do that on dialysis. It doesn't matter what dialysis you're on. So on the NKF website, there are some advice on tips and guidelines to go to on holiday. But one thing I'd advise you just to have a look at first is insurance, because it can be quite expensive, the insurance going abroad while with kidney failure. Often doctors in units don't like you to go away for the first few months, up to 6 months of being on dialysis, just so that they know that you're well, that you're not going to have any problems while you're away. But that will be up to your own hospital what their rules are. If you like to holiday quite locally, so in the UK or the EU, we have like the GHIT and the EHIT cards, the Global Health Insurance cards and the European Health Insurance cards. So some units around the EU do have a agreement with the UK that we can share each other's holiday destinations and do dialysis for them, and they do dialysis for our patients where there's no cost. The NHS cover them funds. It's different depending on the unit. So some of the units abroad will be privately run and they don't accept that, so they might have a cost with it, but it's always worth looking, and there is help. There's a company called Freedom Dialysis, which I know has been really helpful with some of my patients, and they contact the destinations, find out what's needed, and let you know of any costs. So if you can't find the information yourself, there is a lot of websites out there, but I know from experience, Freedom Dialysis have been really, really helpful. We have had patients go on cruises as well. From the UK, they've been really easy. We just send supplies to the port and off you go and enjoy your holiday. So even if you go outside of the EU, go to America, further afield countries, it's absolutely achievable. Just there may be a cost with them, and obviously the insurance cost. So the planning is quite in-depth. You may need blood tests, extra virology blood tests, so they're your infection blood tests. And you may need extra vaccinations to protect yourself while you're in them countries if you're going further away. But what's always good is to look on the websites for checklists, so the NKF holiday tips and guidelines. The holiday dialysis companies have checklists, and if you're frequently going on holiday, I have patients that make their own checklist just so that they don't forget anything. The first time you go away, most people forget something, so it's essential that you find before you go your local hospital details, so that if there's anything you've missed, you can go up to the hospital, speak to them, see if they can help you. Worst case scenario, you phone back in the UK to your hospital and we try and liaise with the hospitals and get what you need. It happens, unfortunately, but checklists help prevent it in future. Just finishing off with the holidays, with going through the airport security, you'll need a letter to say that you're a kidney patient and that you may need to take supplies with you. And that's something that you can just get from your hospital. It doesn't cost anything. It's not like the GP where they charge you for letters these days. It's just something that the hospital should be able to print off for you quite easily so that you can get through. And if you're on home dialysis, you can carry on doing your regular dialysis when you're on holiday, and all the deliveries get sent to the country or the hotel that you're staying in. Okay. So going back to dialysis lines, when to get help and where to get the help. So it's always advisable, contact somebody even if you're unsure. Don't feel like you're wasting their time or intruding on their time. It's always worth asking even if you're not sure, because it's easier to prevent than treat. Common mistakes we see is people not washing their hands properly, not contacting in time, leaving it to their next dialysis or leaving it to their next clinic. Maybe it's beginning of the week and you think, oh, I'm going into the dialysis unit on Wednesday, I'm just going to wait till then. But come Wednesday, you're really unwell, it's too late to fix the problem. If you're contacted on Monday, we'd rather see you twice in a week and try and prevent things getting a lot worse. If it's out of hours and you're not sure what to do, it's always worth calling 111 or going to A&E. Again, don't feel like you're wasting their time. It may be a really long wait in A&E, but it could save you having to lose your line and having to have surgery to have a new one and a couple of weeks in hospital of antibiotics. Main infection signs, if it's a bad infection, is what we call rigors, which is where you're shaking. You may feel really hot or really cold, but if your body's shaking and you're not sure why, that tends to be a key sign that the infection's quite bad. So that's definitely worth going to hospital for. Always follow the advice you're given. There's often some really good booklets to follow if you can't remember what's being said in the hospital. And there's some really good websites on the kidney charities to follow the advice given there. And always be sure, best to be sure than sorry, and err on the side of caution. You're never ever going to waste any healthcare professionals' time. We're here to look after you. So in conclusion, make sure you do your daily checks. So that's making sure your dressing's dry, clean and intact. Making sure that you enjoy your life. Don't let this kidney failure get in your way. It's still possible to live a really normal life and enjoyable life. If you're ever not sure, ask for help from your healthcare professionals. Never feel like you're a burden to them. And always look for the leaflets online. The National Kidney Federation have so many really useful supplies out there, and afterwards you'll also see the contact details for Independence Direct for the activity pouches and the shower pouches. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in Jo. So she's currently a patient on peritoneal dialysis, which is the tummy dialysis. And we'll just have a quick question and answer with Jo, and then any questions that you've put in the chat after, we shall go through them as well. So Jo, do you just want to say quick hello and introduce yourself, please?
Of course, Josie. Hi all, my name's Jo. I've had kidney failure for over 30 years. And in January, my results got to the point where I was on 8% kidney function. And in February, I went and had a PD catheter fitted, and I started home dialysis in March. Great support from the home therapist team at Basildon. I cannot thank them enough for what they do for me. But my experience so far on dialysis has been a really good one.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you. Just a few questions. So when you first got your line, was there anything that you were worried about?
Yeah, I think my concern was obviously pulling it out. That was one concern. Getting an infection is a massive concern. So making sure that obviously I follow the correct rules of hand washing, changing my dressing, and just, you know, making sure that everything's intact and that I can stay infection free. So hopefully I can do that.
And so far you've not had any infections?
I've had no infections, no.
And you've never pulled your line out? It's quite secure.
It is it's very secure, yes.
What does a typical day look like for you in terms of looking after your line?
So my day starts obviously when I get up in the morning after my therapy finishes in the morning. So I get up, I disconnect, I obviously do my hand washing and all that, disconnect. I then change my dressing, or have a shower, change my dressing. I then start work. I'm a full-time worker. I finish my day, and halfway through the day I prep my machine and make sure that's all set up ready for me to connect in the evening. And then obviously when I connect, I do my hand washing, connect and get into bed, and then let the machine do its magic.
Excellent. What has been the biggest adjustment, if any, since you've been living with your dialysis line?
My biggest adjustment is obviously the evening, having to go to bed a little bit earlier so that my therapy finishes in time for me to get up and make sure that I can start my working day on time, basically. But apart from that, apart from my hospital visits, it hasn't really affected me, to be honest. It's quite a good routine I'm in now, and I think home dialysis is definitely the way forward.
Excellent plug there, Jo. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Do you have any worries about showering before you were using the shower pouches?
Absolutely. I've been told by numerous people that you're okay to get in the shower with your dressings on. Just make sure, obviously, you get straight out and change your dressing. But I'm so petrified of getting an infection that obviously the shower pouches that I use, that Independent supply, have been a lifesaver for me. Struggled with them at first, but managed to get my head around how to use them properly, and wouldn't be without them now. I don't think I'm ever going to go in the shower without one of those shower pouches, because I'm just too afraid of getting an infection.
They're definitely worth using rather than having an infection, so that's good. Do you remember how you heard about the shower pouches?
It was definitely through Basildon Hospital, through the home therapist team. It was advertised to me. I think I've seen it on, I think I saw them on the wall as well in the dialysis unit. And I was told about it by my renal nurses, which I've got to be honest, I come home, I phoned up the Independents, and they had already registered me, and it was all straightforward. I've not had no problems with it. So it's been absolutely amazing service.
I'm glad we were efficient for you. How easy are they to take off and put on? Are they comfortable? Do they hurt to take off anything?
At first, I think where I've been continually taking the dressing on and off cleaning, my skin is a bit sore. So obviously, I've having that shower pouch on top of that as well made it a little bit sore. It's obviously now calmed down a bit. The only one thing I would maybe suggest is you get 3 strips, so you get one for the top and one for the side, each side. On several occasions, I've mucked it up when putting it on, so then I've gone without a strip. So I think extra strips in the packs would be useful, but whether that can be done or not, I don't know.
We will ask at the end to see if strips are available as an added. We will find out together. Have you had any issues other than not enough strips? And if so, what did you have to do?
No. I did have one issue when I got in the shower. Obviously, I didn't secure the strips correctly, so water leaked into the shower pouch and hit my my tube, which obviously stressed me out a little bit because I wasn't sure if the actual little port bit could get in water, even though the mini cap was on. But I got reassurance from one of the trainers that come to do my dialysis training, that everything would be okay. And after speaking to the the home therapist team the following day, they also confirmed that was okay.
It's good to hear the advice of don't leave it and wait.
Yes.
And finally, Jo, do you have any advice for others on the call, or what tips do you have for somebody new to dialysis with a line?
I think don't stress about things. Try and stay calm. Obviously, like you said, Josie, if you see an infection developing, contact the unit or your unit straight away. I think if you can, choose home dialysis. I really want to plug this because I think it is an amazing thing to do. Obviously, me as a working person would not get the time to go into a hospital to do the hemo. I appreciate that some people's lifestyles obviously have to do that, but obviously I think this works well with me. It fits into my life, and I wouldn't have chosen it any differently. So I think all I can say is don't stress. The Baxter, if you do have a problem with your machine, if you do home dialysis, Baxter have been amazing. They've helped me out several times. I've had to make a few calls during the evening, and they've been amazing on the phone. They've helped me. Yeah, just be calm, treat your life like you normally would, and just carry on and live life as you can.
That's lovely feedback, Jo. Good advice.
Jo and Josie, thank you ever so much for your time. Some great advice there. We've got some questions, so if you wouldn't mind taking some questions. First of all, we're talking about the infection slide that we had earlier on, and someone's put, what's the regular time scale from score 0 of skin infection to score 3? You know, what sort of time scale would that be?
It's different for everyone, really. So there isn't a time frame. Rather than finding out, if you see a score 1 where it's less than a centimetre of red, or you see a bit of pain or pus, contact your healthcare provider straight away. It could be score 3 that day, that evening. It might take a week, and it's not worth finding out.
Brilliant advice. So we're now talking about the shower pouches. Some people will get them prescribed, some people don't. So what if you don't get them prescribed? How can you get them?
So from my experience, this does tend to be a historical problem in some hospitals. So they used to be very difficult to prescribe because they were very expensive and there wasn't a budget for them. And that is still some people's experience because they haven't tried again. Now, since meeting the independence products, I haven't had in the last 4 or 5 years a single GP refuse. Prior to this 5 years, we'd have had a lot of refusals from GPs. If majority of GPs would have said no. They don't come from the hospital, they come from the GP, but your GP should always say yes. And if there's ever a problem, independence products will work with the GP to get that prescription on, and it will just come with your normal medications. When you go to the pharmacy each month, we tell the GP how many you're going to need each month. So if you shower daily, you get a dressing every single day. If you just shower a couple of times a week, you'll get enough for that. So we only give you what you need. But in my experience, since meeting independence products, I've not had any GP refuse.
So I think the answer then is, you know, if you do have a problem, go to Independence Products. We're going to give you the information on one of the slides, because someone just put, my GP practice refuses point blank to say they've got no budget, and then someone else in the renal unit gets the pouches. So is this a postcode lottery? Well, we know the answer now because we can go to Independence Products. They can fight your corner, really. So just jot down the phone numbers and contact them. Let's have a look at a few more questions. So I was told that I would have to wrap myself in cling film for a shower. Obviously, this is not true, and we can have the pouches now. So what do you think to that one?
That's not the first time I've heard that. It's not fair. You shouldn't have to do that just to have a shower. It's a daily living activity that we all do every day. And just because you have dialysis, it doesn't mean that that right gets taken away from you. I'm hoping that whoever told you that has been at the hospital for years and years and years and just hasn't found out the new information that's out there. It has only been the last kind of, like I say, 4 or 5 years where GPs now start prescribing this. But if your GP hasn't been told in this recent time, or your health provider in the hospital hasn't been told, then they're not to know that actually now it's much easier, and you definitely don't need to wrap yourself in cling film to have a shower.
Defeats the object in a way, doesn't it? So, a question about PD in general, really. Is it possible to have night PD in the UK and manual 3 times daily while abroad?
Absolutely, we encourage that. It's a lot of effort to take your machine and everything abroad. So what most of my patients do, majority choose the machine at night just because it takes less time of your day up. But then when they're on holiday, you might not even need 3 bags. If you're not only going for like a week, we kind of, where I work, offer minimal amount of dialysis that you can still enjoy your holiday, but then say to you, before you go, just do extra for a week before, and when you come back, do extra for the week after, so that when you're on holiday, you can enjoy it and not having to spend all your time doing dialysis. So your hospital will be able to give you advice, but it's definitely possible.
And we're still getting quite a few people saying that their GP has refused. Even back in January, someone said their GP refused even after contacting Independence Products. Well, we've got the experts on this call, so they're going to give you some contact numbers and some phone numbers, and you'll be able to talk to them direct, and they'll fight your corner for you. So maybe we can get that slide up where we can have the contact numbers for Independence Products. So there you are. It's the one on the right hand side, the 0800 160 1399, or you can email ipl.uk.com. Sorry, that's their website. Or if you've got your mobile phone, you can scan the QR code there. So all you do is hover over that, and if you've got a mobile phone that's a fairly modern one, it will go straight to their website. But as I say, the 0800 number, probably tomorrow, give them a call and they'll do everything possible, I'm sure. I know we've got Sam and Alex on the call here, and yeah, they might be able to send you some samples as well in the post, so you can have a shower and go about your everyday business. So that concludes our webinar for tonight. Thank you ever so much for Josie and Joe. Some brilliant advice there. As I said earlier, it is going to be recorded, so you can share it with friends, colleagues, anything else you like. That will be available from round about 10 o'clock tomorrow. Our next webinar is going to be July the 8th, and it's all about memory loss and foggy heads with CKD, which is something we haven't covered before. If you want to go to our YouTube channel, have a look, because we've got all the webinars that we've ever done for the last 3 years on there. So there's loads and loads of subjects. But for tonight, thank you very much for your time and have a lovely evening.